Hi, I'm Rob from B&H, and we're checking out a terrific sounding new analog synthesizer from Waldorf, the Pulse 2. All the sounds you heard in that ambient piece in the intro of this video were created with the Pulse 2, recorded with Logic. With 3 analog oscillators and an analog cascade filter, you get some very fat monophonic lead and bass sounds from the Pulse 2, but it also offers Unison and Paraphonic modes that allow you to play chords of up to 8 notes. Ring modulation and filter FM are available, along with a sophisticated built-in Arpeggiator with CV and gate outputs on the back, all in a stylish portable chassis. In this video, we're going to take a quick look at the box itself, then I'm going to play you a couple of demos, the ambient one you heard a bit of in the intro and a more aggressive techno groove, and we'll look at the sounds I used from the Pulse 2 to create those demos. Finally, we'll take a more detailed look at the Pulse 2 sound and feature set and listen to a few additional sounds. While the original Pulse and the Pulse Plus were designed for rack mounting, the Pulse 2 is a much more portable desktop synth in a metal chassis very similar to the desktop version of Waldorf's Blofeld synthesizer, and while small, it is a little heavier than it looks, weighing in at 3.3 pounds. Power is supplied via a wall-wart DC power supply, which plugs into the back near the USB port. Also in the back are the MIDI in and out ports, the CV and gate outputs, a pair of 1/4-inch outputs, a 1/4-inch headphone jack, and an external 1/4-inch input if you'd like to use the Pulse 2's filter on external audio sources. The front panel features the backlit LCD screen, navigation buttons, and 8 stainless steel knobs. Sound programming is pretty intuitive. Each row features parameters in logical groups: oscillators, LFO settings, envelope, the arpeggiator, filter, and amp. You select a row with a button beside it, then turn the dial to adjust the corresponding parameter value, which you can see on the screen. The dials feature a dynamic response, so the faster you turn the knobs, the faster the values change, which is a nice touch. With the exception of the modulation matrix, all the sound sculpting parameters are adjustable here. The mod matrix and some additional global parameters are accessed with 2-button combinations. There are 500 sound slots, 400 come with presets, and while there were a few less than thrilling patches, there are a good number of strong sounds, especially basses and leads, but also some nice pads using the polyphonic oscillator options. Before we look a little deeper at the sound structure, let's check out these demos so you can get an idea of what the Pulse 2 is capable of. Let's listen to the techno demo. Now let's get a little deeper into the Pulse 2's somewhat complex sonic architecture. I mentioned that we have 3 digitally controlled analog oscillators to work with, and the shape setting sets the type of waveform generated. Oscillator 1 offers the most options, starting with a variable pulse, a saw, and a triangle wave, which are simple enough, and of course, if you have the pulse width set to 50%, you'll get a square wave out of it as well. In addition though, Oscillator 1 offers an alternative pulse wave, which can deliver the changing textures of the pulse wave without thinning the sound. But to achieve that, it introduces a subharmonic tone an octave below. 4 Unison modes are on board, all of which use pulse waves. Unison M creates a cluster of 8 slightly detuned oscillators in monophonic mode for a very rich tone, great for leads and basses, but it's monophonic, so you can only play one note at a time. The amount of detuning is set with the key track value. Unison P is similar but offers polyphonic capabilities, meaning you can play one note and have all 8 detuned oscillators play that root note, just like Unison M, but if you trigger up to 8 different notes, every oscillator plays its own pitch. What results is a very fat chord sound, and again you can control the amount of detuning with the key track parameter. 2 additional Unison modes are similar but use the alternative pulse wave mode with the subharmonic tone I mentioned earlier. But Oscillator 1 has even more to give with its 2 paraphonic modes, Para 4 and Para 8. These allow you to play 4 and 8 note chords respectively, but instead of controlling the detuning, the key tracking parameter now works with the envelope settings to control the fading of the pulse width modulation. I realize that may sound a little complicated, but here's what it actually sounds like. Keep in mind that the Unison and Para 8 modes limit you to using Oscillator 1 only, while the Para 4 mode limits you to using Oscillators 1 and 2. Oscillator 2 offers pulse, saw, and triangle waveform choices and gives you the option of using it to cross-modulate Oscillator 1 or Oscillator 3 for some complex harmonics and ring modulation effects. Oscillator 3 can be set to a square, saw, or triangle waveform and can also be used to create a feedback loop from the drive output back to the mixer for some interesting resonating effects. Envelope controls are available for both the filter and the amplifier with the usual attack, decay, sustain, and release controls. 5 different types of triggers for the filters are available, and both the filter and amplitude envelopes can be set to loop if you want to use the envelope as an additional LFO. So the oscillators on the Pulse 2 offer a lot of flexibility and they sound excellent, but of course a subtractive analog synth needs a filter, and the Pulse 2 offers a single, rather clean sounding multi-mode resonant filter. A 12 or 24 dB low pass is available, as well as a high pass and a band pass filter, both with a 12 dB slope. The filter will self-oscillate for drones like we heard in the ambient demo earlier, or percussion sounds, and there's also a noise generator for drum sounds as well. Just below in the voltage-controlled amplifier section is a great sounding drive parameter that can be set to tube or fuzz, and you can dial in the amount you want from subtle warmth to quite crunchy. The padding parameter and the VCA can be modulated for some cool effects, perhaps from one of the 2 LFOs available, and you can actually hear that happening in several of the presets. The 2 LFOs offer a sine, triangle, saw, square, and a sample and hold wave to choose from, and can be clocked to internal or external clock. The 8-slot modulation matrix is pretty straightforward: source, amount, destination. There is a very nice onboard arpeggiator with a maximum of 16 steps. Each step can be individually edited for duration, accent, glide, and octave shift. Patterns can be swung and clocked in different ways and synced to an external MIDI clock, which I tested when I did the ambient demo you heard earlier. Before we wrap it up, let's listen to a couple more of the patches on the Pulse 2. There were a couple of negatives with the Pulse 2. The screen is a nice size, but it's underutilized since most of it's taken up showing the selected patch number, the parameter being edited and the value are much smaller at the bottom. There's no reverb or delay on board, and some users will find the matrix system for the encoder knobs a bit cumbersome if you're making a lot of adjustments live. But I have no doubt that these limitations help to keep the price down on this unit, and the price is quite good for a 3-oscillator analog synth with a 500 patch library. The Pulse 2 sounds fantastic, and while it offers a lot of excellent monophonic lead, bass, and arpeggiated sounds, its additional modes can deliver some nice polyphonic pads and atmospheres for added value. I'm Rob from B&H, and thanks for watching.
Whether you're a hobbyist or a professional, B&H has the answers to your questions. Experience a world of technology at our New York City Superstore. Connect with us online or give us a call. Our staff of experts is happy to help.